Happy to see you all, darlings. All right. So okay, as always we start with at least this little prayer. Sometimes people have more, but just this one, it's the essential one, okay, setting us in the right direction. So the first two lines, we're reminding ourselves of our reliance upon the Buddha. And the second two lines are just expressing our motivation for being together to listen to these teachings, think about their meaning so that we can take some tools from it to develop our amazing potential. In this case specifically, of course, we're discussing compassion so that we can really be qualified to be of benefit to other sentient beings. That's the whole plan. So this is just kind of stating this, our refuge and our goal together. We can sing it in Tibetan, but I'll say the first in English and then we'll do 2 times in Tibetan. So what we're saying is, I'll say it a few more words. We're saying, in the first 2 lines, until we are enlightened, we are going to rely upon the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And then by the virtuous karmic seeds that we leave in our mind from listening to these teachings, because nothing goes astray, everything stays in the mind, may we become a Buddha so we can be of benefit to sentient beings. Sangye charang soke chognam la janchu baru dagni kyapsu chi dagi chanyen gi personam ki drola penchir sangye drupa shog. Sangye charang soke chognam la janchu baru dagni kyapsu chi dagi chanyen gi personam ki drola penchir sangye drupa shog. Thank you, Anka darling, that's good. Thank you so much. So we'll continue from last week. Last week we kind of gave an overview, the point I was trying to really stress last week is we need to put, all the Buddhist teachings. There's so many of them and it seems such a vast number of teachings, but the key thing that I think we find difficult is to put them in some kind of framework, to understand how all the teachings relate to each other. And I always say this, but it's important to keep repeating it. When we study any body of knowledge, we know that's what we do, When you're studying anything, when you hear a teaching about math, you know where it fits. Is it the beginning one, more advanced, most advanced? You have to understand so therefore, if it's a more advanced teaching, you have to understand the relationship to the earlier teachings. This kind of makes sense. It's really logical. But we don't think of spiritual teachings like that. But I can't stress it enough, and this is what we're really trying to discuss here, is the relationship, what is necessary, what work do we need to have done on ourselves in order to have compassion for others. So, if we take these different teachings, we can just discuss the qualities of compassion, what they are and how you get them. But if we haven't done enough work in the earlier part of the practice, it's impossible. It's like a joke. We don't understand it. It seems, especially these teachings here, the teachings of how to be a Bodhisattva. When you hear, there's just this Sanskrit word, and really the loose equivalent, you could say a saint. Now, if you sit there hearing, teachings, like say you're a Catholic, and you listen to all the teachings of how to become a saint, it just sounds like ridiculous, doesn't it? It sounds too high. It seems impossible. It seems, what are you talking about? I'm not a saint. But the whole point in the Buddha's view, in the Bodhisattva path, Buddha's view is, we've all got this extraordinary potential, So the first stages of our potential, often you see in the prayers, to fulfill my own purposes and the purposes of others. So what that means is that's the 2 wings of the bird. I always say this. So the wisdom wing is all the work you do to develop your qualities. It's about you. You are the beneficiary of those practices. So the very first level of practice, you abide by the laws of karma. You have discipline. You live in vows. You stop killing and stealing and lying and harming others. Why? Because you don't want future suffering. Because everything you think and do and say produces the person you become. So you are the direct beneficiary of that. Then you go to the next level of practice and you start to unpack and unravel your mind. This is the key job. You really begin to have a deep understanding of Buddhist psychology. You know what the delusions are, you know what the positive qualities are, and you know how to distinguish between them. You are the beneficiary of this. Please do not doubt this for 1 second. It is for your benefit you do this. You're turning yourself into a less neurotic, less angry, less attached, less harmful person. You're becoming a wiser, more relaxed, more fulfilled fulfilled person. You are the beneficiary. The practices are all related to how to turn you into a marvelous person. Now, what this qualifies you to do is enter into the compassion work. Now you keep working on yourself. That never stops. But now the reference point is how to help others, how to break down the barriers between the neurotic self and others, how to develop this profound levels of love, compassion, great compassion that culminate in this outrageous approach called bodhicitta, So this is what we're supposedly be discussing in this, yet last week, this week, and one more session. So last week we gave the background, trying to stress the importance of doing the wisdom wing first. Because like I said, if you are still overwhelmed by your own misery, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're worried, you're jealous, you have a difficult life, you're really suffering, then of course you can't see anybody else. You can't even begin to think of anybody else. It's really obvious. If you're suffering, if you just fallen over and you really hurt yourself, the person next to you who also has fallen over, who has hurt themselves, if your pain is bad enough, you won't even notice. This is how we are. This is natural. So if we just enter into the compassion teachings without understanding the earlier work, it'll just be too ridiculous. It'll be far too high for us. We won't understand. How could I reach that? How can I even begin to practice that? So we need to understand this, Nevertheless, we can still talk about the compassion teachings. Of course, we must. So I mentioned last week, if we look at this lam rim, the packaging of all the Buddha's teachings, there's one in there, there's this series that when we get to the compassion practices, there are these series of techniques, that different practices that have been cultivated over the centuries of how to get bodhicitta, and the particular one I'm going to go through, we started already last week, is got 11 little points, and people often will do years of retreat on these, and each one of these points leads to the next, and then that leads to the next, and that leads to the next. They're incremental, they're gradual. So the very first one, as we discussed, and let's look at it again. This is mainly what we discussed last week. It's the practice is called developing equanimity. So like I said last week, this word is used, it's an ordinary English word, and you can have your own view of what it means, but here it's a very specific meaning. It's very specific. All of these words are quite specifically used, and we need to understand properly what they're referring to. Otherwise, how can you accomplish it if you don't know what you're getting, So this equanimity, when you've accomplished it, is this heartfelt recognition that enemy, friend, and stranger, these three people, enemy, friend, stranger, and we looked at this last week. We looked at what we mean by an enemy, a friend, and a stranger. We'll do it again, reminding us that the heartfelt recognition, when you've got it, that these three people, the friend first to the left in front of you, and even as we're talking, you should think like this, have a person right there, your beloved, the person you adore, the one you're close to, whom you are totally attached to, and who fulfills your attachment's needs. That's what we mean in general by friend. So then you've got enemy in front, right in front. An enemy, we mightn't use the word, but it's a good term. It's the object of your aversion. A person who annoys you, who upsets you, who has harmed you, who doesn't fulfill your attachment's needs, who proactively does the opposite even. And then the third one, a stranger to the right in front of you, a person, and even as you're visualizing, even as we're talking now, think of this person. Just a person maybe whose face you know well enough, but you have no relationship. What that means is they had neither helped you, nor have they harmed you. So that's called a stranger. So the friend, the object of attachment. The enemy, the object of aversion. The stranger, the feeling we have towards them is indifference. Couldn't care less, isn't it? So these three, if you think about it, we divide the entire universe. All sentient beings fit into these three categories. And I haven't finished my definition yet. I interrupted myself. So the heartfelt recognition that these three, that's one specific point, are equal to each other from one point of view. that each of them only is driven by the wish to be happy, and each of them is driven by the wish not to suffer. This is what we're trying to see. This is what we're trying to accomplish. So it's very specific. I mean, often I think we're very vague about this terminology. You know, if we say something like 1 + 1 is 2, that's very specific, isn't it? Everybody has to know that definition. Well, we just think that these are religious sounding words, you know, and can make up our own definition. No, you get very confused if you do that. This has got very specific meaning. So why would you want, this is the key point, why do we want to cultivate this view that recognizes that each of these three people is equal from this one point of view? It's very logical and clear. So, right now, so what is love? We're trying to cultivate love, compassion. They're the essence of all the virtues. And then that comes into what they call great compassion, which we'll talk about. And then that culminates in this Bodhichitta, this Sanskrit word that refers to this outrageous, powerful attitude, which is the result of all this practice, that is this spontaneous aspiration only, it's got two parts, to only benefit beings, whoever's in front of you. Your spontaneous job, if it's an ant, a dog, a crazy guy, your only job is to be of benefit to them. And then the second part of the bodhicitta is the long-term goal. I must never give up working second by second, day by day, month by month, year by year, life by life, until I've completed the job and I've become a Buddha. Then I can qualify perfectly to benefit all beings. That's bodhicitta, roughly speaking. So if you see the qualities, if you listen to the qualities of that person, it would sound like science fiction. It sounds like psychologically impossible, you know. One of the qualities of a bodhisattva, or one of the qualities of a person who's accomplished bodhicitta, accomplished it properly, not just have a moment of it, is that they no longer think of self. I mean, this is a very shocking concept. This sounds like weird, you know. So these 11 techniques culminate in this bodhicitta. The first one, the foundation. Without this, you can't do the others. There's logic to why you would want to see that every friend, every person who's kind to you, every person who's unkind to you, every person who does neither, that they're equal from this point of view. It's very clear why. Because look, they all want to be happy. We're seeing that they're equal from the wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer. What's wanting to be happy mean? If I say to you, I love you, what the definition of love is may you be happy. The wish that someone be happy, that's the definition of love in Buddhism. So clearly, it's not a delusion. It's separate. It's in the second category of states of mind. It's in the positive states of mind. It's not a delusion. It's not a disturbing emotion. But the trouble, of course, is, I mean, we could spend the rest of the 2 weeks talking just about this one. And let's look a bit deeply at this one now, why we can't have even a moment of pure compassion. Because our compassion at the moment is mixed completely. Love and compassion. So love is, may you be happy. Compassion is, may you not suffer. They're the definitions. A thought. It starts with this. Of course, you grow them to a huge degree. So right now, the samsaric view, the way we all are, because we've all got attachment, aversion, and ignorance, is we do have love. But who are the ones we think, may you be happy? Only the friends. It's pretty logical. I mean, of course, we can try to do the others, but the spontaneous, natural one, we have lots of love and we have lots of compassion, but only for the first group. That's it. That's the way the world is, and we don't question that. To think that you should try and have love and compassion for every being in the universe sounds exhausting. It's just too weird for words, you know, but this is what we're aiming for. So right now we do have love and we do have compassion, but just for the first group, pretty much. And now, so what we're trying to do here is shift. So in other words, the logical reason, well, the illogical reason of ego is not logical. The illogical reason for wanting someone to be happy at the moment is because they make me happy. So it's got, we say in English, it's got strings attached. Lama Zopa says it's unstable. I used this example last week, you know, like Lou. So when he was a stranger, I didn't know Lou. He neither harmed nor helped me. I couldn't care less about his headaches. I would try to be compassionate. But it's hard for me to think of Lou all day and he's a stranger. You don't think of a stranger all day by definition. So I kind of hope he doesn't have more headaches, but I don't think about him most of the time. But suddenly he becomes my boyfriend. Now what happens? He's suddenly become my friend. He's gone from the stranger category to the friend category. And now I think about him all the time. I have a total love for him. I have incredible compassion for him. But look at the difference. Why now? Because I'm attached to Lou, and Lou fulfills my attachment's needs. So it's got strings attached. This is the logic of ego, or the illogic of ego right now. We do have lots of love and lots of compassion, but only for the objects of attachment. It's so obvious, but we don't question it. This is the point. So this can't start shocking. We should question this. Now what happens when I get fed up with Lou? Like I said last week, boring old Lou and his boring headaches, he never stops complaining. Now I'm bored by Lou and I hate Lou and I'm fed up with Lou and I chuck him out, and now he's in the enemy category. And I have to struggle not to hope he suffers with his headaches. We really know this, and we go in our lives between these three all the time. But the shocking thing is we don't question these assumptions. We just say, oh, that's normal. Of course I'm angry with Lou. He hurt me. Of course I love Lou. He's kind to me. So in other words, the logic of ego is totally based on what the other person does to me. In other words, it's a very self-centered analysis. But it's normal in the world. Nobody questions it. We just say it's normal. Of course you love your own child more than the next door neighbor child. Of course you love your husband more than the next door neighbor husband. We say it like that. Well, it's samsara. All we're trying to do here is an analysis of it. Well, it's a bit exhausting to think, you mean I've got to love everybody? And we get confused about that. What does it look like? Am I supposed to move in with the next door husband? I mean, what does it mean? It gets confusing. No, not at all. It's an attitude we're trying to cultivate. So the reason we're trying to get equanimity, because that becomes the basis for the rest of the steps. Because now, once I've felt strongly and have confidence that the enemy, friend and stranger, my enemy, friend and stranger, are equal in their wish to be happy, then I know that everybody wants to be happy and everybody doesn't want to suffer. And now that becomes the basis for my development gradually of love, compassion, great compassion, and eventually bodhicitta. So it's very meaningful logic. You've got to hear the logic of it. It's not meant to be just some vague emotional feeling, oh, everyone's equal. There's logic to it. And why I keep saying logic is because ego has no logic whatsoever. It's completely irrational, So this is tough stuff. It's like quite threatening, this kind of thinking, So, okay. Like we talked last week as well, one of the problems is when we simply say the words, let's say the person, your ex-husband, and you're trying to do ex-Lou, let's say, he just chucked me out or something, and you're trying to do a meditation on equanimity, and you have Lou in your enemy category because he's just been mean to you. And you say the thought, you've done your thinking, and then you go, okay, Ravina, Lou wants to be happy just like my child, my beloved. But the biggest stumbling block for us, and I think I began to discuss this last week, and let's look more at this. The first thing I'll say is, because I'm so hurt by Lou, I'm so injured, he really did cheat on me. He was really unkind. And I think all the kindness I gave him, all these headaches, all the money I've spent on all the compassion I've given, then he goes and cheats on me. Of course, you would be devastated. And then if I'm trying to do equanimity, and I think, well, Lou wants to be happy, the first instinct will be to say, what do you mean he wants to be happy? He doesn't deserve it. This is so powerful for us. I forget if we discussed this last week, but let's look at the logic of this. Deserve is a heavy word in our world, a heavy word for ego. Because that's the point. The only reason I love my child and I love my husband and I love my auntie, the ones who are kind to me and good to me. It's a struggle sometimes, we know, because one day they might be in the enemy category, then you put them back in the friend category. We feel our love with so instinctively, naturally. This is the way ego works. Everyone's like this. Animals, you watch their behavior, it's the same. When a person's harmed us, and this is the work we have to do in the wisdom wing, we get so injured and offended and outraged and hurt, and that's because of attachment. So naturally, if someone harms me, the thought, even to consider the thought that they want to be happy, is too shocking. What do you mean they want to be happy? I mean, it just seems like crazy to us. They don't deserve it. Because we only love those, we only want those who are kind to us to be happy. This is the point at the moment. So it's very hard to get past this. But this equanimity has got nothing to do with whether or not a person deserves or doesn't deserve. Deserve isn't the issue. It's trying to look in the fundamental driving force of all living beings as a starting point to even try to cultivate love and compassion for them, So the other point too with about the wisdom wing work, which is so crucial to do first. This is something that if we haven't done this, it is impossible to even get equanimity. It's impossible to even consider the thought that that horrible person, maybe the psychopath, maybe the rapist, maybe the terrorist, never mind whether it's a person who's close to you, it's impossible to think they want to be happy because we can't understand what it means. So this is the first thing in the wisdom wing, one of the most powerful points that we really do miss in our culture, is the understanding of what we're trying to accomplish in the wisdom wing. Well, they call it renunciation. And this kind of sounds sort of holy. You kind of visualize a person giving up sex, giving up drugs, giving up the husband, giving up their money, and going off to the mountains looking depressed. That's how we think of renunciation. I mean, it's really cliched. It's really not like that at all. You could be a multimillionaire with the best house in the universe, and you could have renunciation. Because renunciation, like all these qualities that we are trying to accomplish, are mental. They're states of mind. So the whole of the wisdom wing is all the work of understanding one. This is the Four Noble Truths. You have to understand the first noble truth. There is suffering. Then you have to understand the second noble truth. This is about yourself. This is the wisdom wing. That there are causes of suffering. And the third is you can be free of suffering and its causes. And four, how to do it. This is the work, one way of framing all the work of the wisdom wing. So the culmination of all of this is, one, you stop killing and stealing and lying and harming. Why? Because you know that everything you think and do and say produces a future suffering or happiness, and you know you don't want suffering, so you stop causing suffering. That's already the first step. Then two, you start to look into your mind more deeply, and you really become your own therapist, and you really deeply begin to understand the unbelievable suffering of attachment, anger, jealousy, depression, anxiety, and all the fears of samsara. You really learn to taste how horrible and painful these states of mind are. Now, this takes time because we are so invested in our attachment and anger and jealousy and resentment. We're so deeply habituated so that we kind of know we're suffering, but we think it's everybody else's fault. We haven't yet understood that the suffering is coming directly from those states of mind. When you really know this, you're beginning to get renunciation. We understand it in the world. Let's say you're an alcoholic. Let's say you're overeating and you're obese. Let's say you've been, you're a junkie for video games. Let's say you're a junkie for jumping on boys. I mean, whatever the object of attachment is, we all know we have lots of attachments, in this sense. Gross ones, obvious ones, the objects of the senses. When you're completely immersed in it, you're living in denial. Because you're so attached to the food, you know technically, theoretically, that all the food you're eating is wrong for you. It's making you unhealthy. Your body doesn't work. Your knees ache. You're overweight. Your mind is, but you still can't handle it. You can't admit it because the attachment is so strong. We all know this. And everybody else is the first to see it. We all know, if you see somebody else, forget yourself. If you see someone else who's in the middle of all this desperate attachment to some strong object, Whether it's video games, sex, you name it, whatever it might be. It's obvious if you can see someone else. It's very easy, but you can see they haven't admitted it yet. This we all understand, because it's too painful to admit what you're doing, because you haven't come to terms with it. I mean, people who go to AA all talk about this, that sometimes you've got to completely collapse on the street and be overwhelmed by the garbage of the suffering before you pick yourself up again. We all can see this. We all can see this. Well, this is the analogy for suffering and giving it up. I mean, suffering, Buddha's talking the same thing, except his view of attachment is much more subtle than our view of attachment. Our view of attachment in our world, it's only suffering when it's very like a strong object like alcohol or 5 hours of video games a day or something. We usually judge it by the object or by the intensity. But the Buddha's basically saying we're all driven by attachment, by this emotional hunger. And that's what he's talking about renunciation of. He's talking about giving up all attachment. So this is a very, very, very advanced practice. Do not underestimate it. But to begin to have the understanding, just like when you finally realize it's just too much, you've got to put yourself together. So you pick yourself up and you go to AA, and then you start to admit your attachment. You start to own it. We know this is a powerful, shift in our mind. This is what renunciation means. Giving up suffering and its causes, So the point about this I'm getting to, the point of this is like when you get this finally for yourself, the Buddhists don't call it this, but this is like having compassion for yourself. You stop beating yourself up. You stop hating yourself. You realize that you are causing your own suffering. You begin to get some kindness towards yourself. And until we get that, nothing can change. You're just growing more misery if you hate yourself and have guilt, which is what we do. So when you really start to get renunciation, you realize you're causing your own suffering. Those 5 hours of videos, that constant eating, that constant yearning to jump on new boyfriends, the constant yearning for more this and more that, whatever the object of your attachment is. This is the point now. You realize the object isn't the problem. It's the attachment that is the problem. That's what's breaking your heart. That's the beginning of renunciation. Now, what's this got to do with compassion? Everything. When you start to own your own attachment, and I'm not just talking about attachment now, this is an example, but your own anger, your own depression, your own anxiety, whatever it might be, you start to realize that that's your mind. It's your way of seeing the world, whatever the reasons, karma, of course, but whatever. And you start to own this and see the pain that it's causing you. Like I said, it's like having compassion for yourself. And until you have that, you can't begin to have valid, proper, grounded compassion for others. Because they are exactly the same as you. In one way or another, we are all different recipes of the same problems, the same, just different categories, certain amounts of attachment, certain amounts of anger, certain amounts of jealousy. Some have more, some have less. We're all basically, what is it they say, cut from the same piece of cloth. You cannot have that level of empathy with others. You cannot see we're all in the same boat, even at the simplest level, until you have realized your own suffering. That's why renunciation is the first level of realization. It's the first level of practice. It's so profound when we understand it. So the simplest way of understanding it, how are we all in the same boat? We've all got attachment. We've all got anger. We've all got jealousy. So now, you might not be a rapist. You might not be a psychopath. You might not be a pedophile. I agree, you might not be. But if you analyze what is a rapist, is a person who's got a lot of attachment, fantasies about some object called female body, let's say, and they've got lots of anger. There's one is attachment and two, anger. They have attachment to supposed sex, but they also have a lot of anger and want to harm somebody, have power over somebody. Now, that's coming from delusions. You might not rape, but if you recognize that action is the action of anger and attachment, and then you go, well, I've got anger, I've got attachment. No, you're not a rapist, I agree. But you know you recognize attachment, and you know you recognize anger. When you've owned your own, now you can go, wow, he's just the same as me, except he's more extreme. And then you can begin to have compassion, because first you realize your own anger and own attachment are so much pain, you can only imagine the pain of his mind. But this is where, until you have the compassion for yourself, you cannot have that for this other person. Because right now, we act like we're all saints. We constantly point the outside world. We read the news, we watch the television, and all we do is criticize. All we do is find fault. Look at this evil person. Look at that bad person. Look at that politician. Look at that evil man. As if we are complete saints, you know. And this shows the total kind of arrogance, first of all, we've got, but secondly, no awareness of the suffering of our own mind. I can't stress this enough. I cannot stress this enough. It is not possible to have compassion. Okay, now, this is the thing. There are levels of compassion. This is the point. We do have compassion now, but who for? The victim of the rapist only. The victim of the thief only. We only have compassion for a small group, and these are the ones that we think, due to ego, deserve our compassion. So our whole basis of compassion is innocent victims. So then if you take the Buddhist view of karma, this just completely is shattered. There's no such thing in the bigger picture point of view. And this is very shocking to hear. Don't misunderstand it. The Buddha is saying all of us have got countless past lives. All of us, our mind goes back and back and back. All of us have done every action imaginable to other sentient beings. That's so shocking to us. We're so shocking. One of the commonest ways people respond to karma is, you mean I was a bad person before? We can't even bear to hear it. We can't even bear to hear it. So a lot of unpacking we have to do, and this is karma back in the beginning. So the ability to have compassion for the first one of compassion for innocent victims, that we've got. But the next level, people who are the harmer. Absolutely, with ego, they don't deserve. So of course we won't give them compassion, because all we do is see their faults and we hate them. We blame them. This is the world, people. Look at the world. So all this unpacking we have to do in the wisdom wing about ourselves first. Then when we've got that, and you can look at another person who's, extreme attachment, and as well as harming others, you understand it. You have a logic for understanding it. So therefore you can have compassion. Now the other trouble is with our wrong view of compassion, it's sentimental right now. It's sentimental. We feel, well, if I have compassion for that alcoholic, if I have compassion for that pedophile, what we immediately think is, you kind of pat him on the head and go, well, the poor fellow can't help it, poor thing. No, our compassion is so limited right now. It's so full of attachment and emotion. It's very unstable, our compassion. Like if you're, I think probably the only one who would have compassion for a pedophile is his mum. Think about it. His mummy loves him. She remembers that little boy. She remembers his little heart. She saw all his good qualities, and her heart breaks for him now, because she can see listen to this, she's the only one who can see the harm he is doing to himself. We can't see that until we've seen our own. This is why the wisdom wing has to come first, Because the levels of compassion we're describing here are outrageous. They're including everybody. All the pedophiles, all the wackos, all the evil politicians, all the thieves, murderers and rapists. This is too shocking for our minds to think, So we have to have a logical basis for understanding why we are trying to cultivate love and compassion for them. What does it mean, This is hard for us. Because what we're trying to do, realize, is we're all in the same boat. We've all got delusions. We've all had countless past lives. We've all been the victim in countless lives. We've all been the harmer in countless lives. We're all driven by our own craziness, and all of us are suffering unbearably. So what we're trying to do is get out of this suffering, become a great bodhisattva. So once you've subdued your own body, speech, and mind, realize everybody's in the same boat, you've developed these profound levels of love and compassion to the point where you now you make this paradigm shift in your mind, and you only have the thought to only benefit others. That the entire world is like your precious children. I mean, this is insane. You can't just force yourself to have a gooey feeling about this. You've got to build it slowly, logically, step by step, psychologically. It's a very profound psychological progress, you know. This is the approach. So equanimity is the first one. So the very next little bullet point in these series of 11 little practices, 11 little ways of thinking. The next one is hilarious. This is hilarious, okay? It goes like this. The heading is, and what you have to contemplate, all sentient beings have been my mother. Well, there's some logic to this. I remember asking a mathematician to see if this is logical. He thought it was a load of rubbish. But I don't know, it seems logical to me. You think, listen to this. If there are trillions of sentient beings, if we've all got beginningless lives, therefore it follows logically we've bumped into each other countless times. Therefore, logically, yes, they've all been my dog, they've all been my enemy, but they've all been my mother. So why is the mother one we want to think about? Well, this is very Asian, you know. They have great respect and love for their mummies. It's just an example. I remember the Dalai Lama, he heard all the problems with Western people, modern people, have about their mothers. They all blame their mothers. He can't believe, you know. So I said, well, don't think about your mother. Think of anybody who's nurtured you. A mother is just an example of a person who has taken care of you and nurtured you since you're tiny. Okay, if you're fortunate enough to have a nice mummy. So the logic here is we're trying to expand our mind to go through this process that I described before, you know. We're trying to expand our mind to realize that all the beings right now in this life, enemies, friends, and strangers, but in past lives they've been this, and in past lives they've been that, but they've all been my mum. It's so hilarious. This is sort of like get your calculator out, you know, to look at the logic of this. Now the next one, the third one, and you contemplate all of these points. People do years of meditation retreat on these different points until eventually they have cultivated bodhicitta, you know. So this third one is now to think about that the simple heading is, the mother is kind. Now this too completely makes us crazy. We have so many different assumptions, you know. What do you mean my mother is kind? So I think here, again, we could spend the next 3 weeks just on this word, kind. Here, it's not the way we think. The way they mean by kind here is very specific. You know, if we right now think of somebody who is kind, think about it. Please think about this. Again, it's quite shocking. It's so self-centered. What we mean is a person does what my attachment wants. They're the only people who are kind. If a person smiles at me, a person gives me what I want, immediately we think, aren't they kind? Now, let's say I'm in the cafe. I always use the same example, and I just ordered my chocolate cake. And the waitress brings my chocolate cake. She gives me an extra spoon of cream, and she gives me a discount. So of course I think she's kind. But let's say she's talking to the cook about this fat old Australian ugly Buddhist nun and cracking jokes about me. She might think I'm a creep. But I don't hear that, and I don't care. I got my extra cake and I got a discount. So naturally she must be kind. Because why? Because she gave me what my attachment wants. So in other words, kind in this context has got nothing to do whether the person from their own side is kind. That's difference. This is hard to hear. So how is your mother then kind? The whole thing here is, so look, if you've got a loving relationship with your mother, then this is an easy meditation. It's very easy to do because you already think she's kind and you adore her and you remember all the good things she's done for you. But this is a really good meditation, especially if you think your mother isn't kind, especially if you remember the bad things your mother did. And I mean, this is the first point. I think it's quite fascinating in our world, in our modern materialist philosophical, the culture where philosophical materialism is the main philosophy, where the logic is that your mother makes you, that you are the handiwork of your mum. So in a way, in a sense, it's logical to blame your mother if she does bad things. If you're unhappy, if you have a suffering life, it seems fairly logical to me that if your mother really did make you, then of course she's responsible. Think about this now. We don't unpack this, but think about it. That's the view of our modern world. It goes without saying that you are the handiwork of mummy and daddy. So if mummy and daddy are psychotic or evil or bad, then of course they are responsible for making me. So therefore my problems are their fault. This is fairly logical. It's fairly logical actually. But the Buddha would say they don't make you. They just give you a body, Rabina. You brought your own states of mind with you from your own past. So this is a huge difference, First point. So let's say you've got a mother who's a regular, this is the other point, mummies are just like regular people. Mummies are just like you and me. They've got attachment and anger and jealousy and pride and depression and anxiety. Join the universe, folks. But for some reason, because of our immense attachment since we're very tiny children, we've got this enormous expectation, haven't we, that somehow our mummy should be perfect. Think about this. This is the thinking of attachment. Attachment, especially this person, you've seen her since you were born. You have this idealized picture of your mother. You're in love with your mother. Basically, from the very beginning, you're in love with your mother. It's attachment. Think about this. Attachment over-exaggerates the deliciousness of something. So I know for myself, maybe until I was about 11 or 12, I never saw fault in my mother. I would never dare criticize my mother. These days, you start criticizing your mother when you're about 2. It never occurred to me until I was about 11 or 12. And I even remember, listen to this, I remember the moment, we say in English, the first time she fell off the pedestal, your mother's up on a pedestal. I remember the moment, and it was quite shocking for me, the first time I found fault with my mother. That means my attachment began to get less, and then what started to grow is anger. And before you know it, by the time you're 15, your mother is the evilest person on the whole planet. We know this because attachment starts to go less, and then anger starts to grow, and all you do now is find fault. Now, the tragedy is many people don't ever give up that anger. They're still 97, still angry with their mother. Well, we need to do a bit of shifting, okay? And this is a very powerful place to do it, in this little contemplation. So basically, when we can see how we paint the picture of the person, depending on whether it's attachment or aversion. A friend, by definition, is a picture painted by my attachment that makes the person look divine. A person for whom I have anger, the enemy is a person is painted by my anger. And they're both extreme. They both exaggerate. So with our mummy, if you adore your mummy and you only remember the good things, then it's really helpful for this meditation. You can do it easily. But what if you are angry with your mummy? What if and she might be neurotic. She might be harmful. This is not to do, this is the point. Saying that your mother is kind is not saying that she's a good person. She might be she might be crazy. So the point is this, I'm getting to the point what it means by she is kind. It's quite hard for us. So what you've got to do in this meditation is start to think since you were born. It's almost like you have to make a new list and you try to remember the good things that your mother did for you. Now, presumably, your mother gave birth to you. Okay, that's the first step. This sounds so absurd to think, what do you mean she's kind? It's her job, for God's sake. But think about it. Think about it. Lots of mothers, and I'm not being rude here, but analyze it, on the planet, millions of mummies have abortions. I'm not being rude. It's a fact. I had an abortion when I was 23. Crystal clear. But your mother didn't have an abortion. This is one of the first reasons you should never give up thinking how kind your mother is. I am not joking. She even might have consciously decided not to abort you. A person I know, a friend of mine, close person, she made a conscious decision when she was 17 to not have an abortion. It was in the 1960s, and she made a conscious decision to not have an abortion. She decided not to have an abortion. She gave birth to the baby, and then she gave the baby away. And then she broke her heart for years. And eventually in the 1980s, she found the way to meet the girl again. She met the daughter. Now, the daughter still hated her. The daughter hated her. Not still. The daughter didn't like her. She resented her. She was angry with this person. Now, I know this person. I know her motivation was not to kill the baby. But this person, 20 years later, all she remembers is, she gave me away. I mean, that's just really outrageous. I know the suffering of this person. She suffered all those years about, having that baby and breaking her heart and missing the baby. But she didn't abort the baby. Now, that should be the most profound attitude in your mind if you were given away. The commonest experience people who've been given away by their mummies at birth is that they feel rejected, They're hurt and angry. But I know this particular story. So this girl never thinks for once in a million years, she would never think how kind she was. She didn't abort me. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable, actually. But who ever thinks like this? I remember meeting a fellow years ago in New Zealand. He was about 40. And he's told the story about how his mummy told him only recently that she had decided to have an abortion. Everything was clear. She was in the hospital. She was in the gown. She was ready to go into the hospital. She put her hand on the door handle and she changed her mind. He was so moved by that story, he could not believe it. It was like he'd been given a death sentence and then he was released from death sentence. That's how it is. Now, that's a pretty profound thought. This particular woman I'm talking about, she broke her heart about giving this child away and was so sad, but she decided not to have an abortion. Now, that's a pretty profound thought to have. When all these years, this girl, all she has done is think badly about this mother. How dare she give me away, So that's one example of one tiny thing. Now, the thing is, if you are angry with your mother, you could easily write a list, couldn't you, of all the bad things your mother has done. And you're probably right. She probably even did do them. But the thing is, what you're trying to do in this meditation is paint a new picture of your mother. You're trying to paint a picture through the lenses of your appreciation. So what did your mother do for you? Well, your mother gave birth to you. Your mother fed you. Your mother taught you how to wipe your bottom. Your mother taught you how to tie your shoelaces. Your mother taught you thousands of tiny things. Yes, she might have been angry as well. And yes, she might have been depressed. And yes, she might have been jealous. This is also true. But we're trying to remember the good things here. Why? So you can paint a new picture of this person. And kindness means this: the very fact that she did anything at all to facilitate your life. That's what it means by how kind she is. Not from her own side. She might be a psychopath. She might be an unhappy person, but she still did those things. So it's a really conscious kind of reconfiguring of your interpretation of your mother. It's a really powerful practice. So the logic, of course, here is you just did the step before. Everybody's been my mother. So now this mother, this life, we're analyzing the good things she's done to try and change the picture we have of our mother, to soften our heart. Then we realize everybody has done this, This is a tough one, a really tough one. So there's a second part here. There's 11 techniques, right? Number 1, equanimity. Number 2, all beings have been my mum. Number 3, the mother is kind. But that's like 3A. Now 3B, it's a different approach. It's similar, but it's more profound in a way. And it goes, all beings are kind. Now on the face of it, we can't understand it. So what does it mean? But this is a really profound analysis to do. It's huge, this one. And you can see it's scientifically true. It's not some fantasy, So this one basically is like this. That every tiny thing that has facilitated your life from the time of conception in your mother's womb up until now, everything that has facilitated your life is from the actions of sentient beings. This is fact. So the very first one is, you're in your mother's womb before you got born. So forget the fact that even your mother fed you, or she fed herself, which fed your body. But think of all the food she ate. Just think of this. Maybe your mother wasn't a vegetarian, so she ate cows and bulls and chickens and fishes. Well, then think of all those cows and bulls and fishes and chickens. There's a karmic connection that those little sentient beings who died, whose flesh that your mother ate, that she put into her mouth, that went to her body, turned your little body into your body. Where do you think your body comes from? Where do you think your body comes from? Your mother, the food she ate, all the carrots and tomatoes and the creatures, and all the creatures who died when you grew the carrots and the tomatoes. You'd be no my body unless your mother had eaten all this food, unless your mother remembered to eat the food, unless the little fishes had died and the cows had died and the bulls and the chickens had died. So just even your body, this little squealing little body that comes out on the first day of birth, it's the handiwork. That body is a bunch of cows and fishes and chickens. What else is it? Think about it. That's profound. But we think, my body, How arrogant we are. That's just your body before you even start life. And then from that second, your mother puts clothing on you. Well, that clothing comes from a little cow, a little sheep. All the people who worked in the factory where they made the polyester. The people who grew the cotton that made your little shirt. These are facts. These are not fantasies. These are actual scientific facts. But whoever thinks about this, we don't think about it. We just take it for granted. That's my blanket, We don't think of the little sheep who had to give their wool for that blanket to keep me warm when I was a baby. These are facts. Or the food your mother feeds you. The care she takes. These are not joking. Your house in the winter, let's say you're born in the winter and it's 20 degrees below, freezing, and your house has got heating. Well, who gives the heating? All the people in the heating factory, in the gas factory, in the petrol factory, in the kerosene factory, in the electricity company factory. This is not a joke, This is true. But we never think. So this practice really is about interdependence, but how it's related to sentient beings. The interdependence of sentient beings. Up until now, everything that has ever facilitated your life, my glasses, I would be absolutely as blind as a bat if it weren't for the kindness of all the people who created lenses, made my glasses, all the people who made the food that I eat, who made the clothing that I wear, the shoes that I wear, who built this building so I can be shaded from the sun and the cold. These are actual scientific facts, but we never, ever think of them. It sounds almost like sentimental and silly, but it's fact. And the conclusion from this is profound. When you really start to see anything, you see the kindness of others. The people made these things, sentient beings. Now, this again is the point. Thinking that all beings are kind, it's nothing to do with the person. Maybe the person who, is the florist who delivered these roses to me, maybe he's a pedophile. I don't care. That's not the issue here. The fact is that person delivered the roses to me. The person who made the vase the roses can sit in. Every tiny thing you look at, everything you touch and taste and smell is the handiwork of countless sentient beings. So the reason to think this is because the conclusion number 4, I must repay their kindness. These are methods, technical methods, to expand your mind, to start to break down ego's ridiculous misconceptions that is usually what paints the picture of sentient beings, to start to see sentient beings as different. And then we have this powerful wish to want to be kind in return, to become a Buddha so I can benefit these sentient beings, repay the kindness of all the millions of animals whose bodies I've eaten, all the vegetables and all the creatures who died when they grew the veggies, all the people who made the roses and made my clothes and made this and made that. These are powerful thoughts to have. We never think about this, ever. Never. The only person we think about is if it's your beloved, like say your little child makes you something. Then you will think of their kindness. Well, that's the attitude here. It's as if, every single being either is your mum or a child, and everything you have is the handiwork of your precious child. Then you'll really appreciate it. I mean, you know what mothers are like. My mother, she had 7 children. And I mean, when she died, I wasn't in Australia when she died. My sisters told me, of course, this is what happens. The house was full of what? All the things from her children. Every letter any one of her children had written, every little lock of hair when we were children, our little baby booties, everything was her children. Everything she saw, the paintings that we might have done for her when we were little children, that had no intrinsic value at all. But when my mother saw that little painting done by her little Bobsy, that's me, Bobsy, when I was 5 years old, all my mother saw was her little Bobsy. She didn't see an ugly drawing. We know this. Well, this is the attitude we're trying to have. To see everything as the handiwork of others, and therefore begin to open our hearts to all sentient beings and want to continue to work on ourselves to repay their kindness. I mean, it's an outrageous attitude. It's an amazing attitude, and you can't fault it scientifically. But because why isn't it we don't see this now? It's because we have masses of attachment. If I always, when I wear socks, I like to wear long, knee-length, navy blue socks, okay? I'm telling you. So, when I go to the shop where I buy my navy blue socks, I take it for granted. I want my navy blue socks. I want the right size. I want the right mix of wool and cotton. And so if I find it, I'm prepared to say thank you. Of course, if you buy it in Kmart, you can't thank anybody because you've got to pick up your own socks. But if you go to a shop where they find the socks for you, you're so happy. Oh, wow, that's my kind of sock. But you don't think of all the people. You're prepared to thank the person. But look at the people who made the socks, the people who did the sign on the socks that showed its size something, 60% cotton, 40% polyester. People did the typesetting. People cut the paper. People did the printing. People made that little hanger that they hang the socks on. Human beings made those things. They didn't fall out of a tree. So you think how kind these sentient beings are. But for them, I wouldn't have my navy blue socks to keep my little feet warm in cold Santa Fe. These are facts. These are facts. This is not fiction. But we don't think about it because we're not attached to them. If we were attached to those people, we'd be very happy and thank them for their kindness. All beings are kind. They themselves in their bones might not be nice people, but the fact that they did this that facilitates my life, that's the logic. So it's such a different view, Come on now, it's time to ask me some questions, please, you people. It's more than enough. I'm not going to add any more topics today. I just want questions about what I've discussed so far.
What you presented today resonated a lot with me, and the last few days. I mean, I've seen I went in a store, and it was an old kindergarten where it was just a small drawings forgotten there since 2018. And I just looked at one, and it was saying, "I love you, mommy."
Oh, very good. Yes, and I understand.
It resonated deep into me, exactly what you're saying that Wonderful. I missed. I've been, judging my parents since forever, and I've come to terms with, at least unpacking a little bit of my bullshit.
That's right, exactly, Paul. Exactly. And it's true, isn't it? And as soon as you do that, you suddenly paint a new picture. Your heart feels closer, doesn't it?
Definitely, it unwinds a little bit.
That's right.
I'm still, I don't understand how my self-hatred still comes, but
I understand. That's a very old habit. It's an old habit, Paul.
I know. Okay. I feel it a lot in my body now, and I think that's a really good sign that I should, be close to myself.
That's right.
Whatever.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit. It just resonated so deep. That little girl wrote one day to her mother, and that love just went out of that.
That's exactly right. There you go, Paul. Thank you very much. It's a very nice point. Thank you, Paul, darling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Vanessa, sweetheart. Vanessa has something to say.
Hi, Ravina.
Hello, sweetheart.
So I didn't grow up with my dad. After my mom left Vietnam, he married another woman and had 2 kids.
Yes.
And, I grew up feeling abandoned, but now that I'm an adult, I kind of let go. And he recently passed away, and he lives in another country. He still lives in Vietnam. He wanted me to contact him, but I just never felt a connection with him. I met him a couple times and his kids.
Yes.
But I didn't really feel a connection with them, and they were trying to contact me.
Yes.
I just don't have any interest of having a relationship with them.
So, but no, that's fine. But they're not your parents, and you don't need to do that. But what about your daddy?
Okay.
Any of this thinking? I mean, your daddy or your mummy. I know you love your mother, but is there any feeling about your father? I mean, how you can sort of use this example of a meditation to try and soften your picture of your father, even though he left you. There were still many things he did that facilitated your life. That's the point I'm interested in. Your relationship to your father. Are you able to do that?
Well, he's dead now.
No, I understand that, yes. But are you able to change the picture? Because obviously if he left you, you'd be very hurt. And probably you've still got that feeling of being hurt, right? Or did you learn to love your father? Did you learn to forgive him?
I learned to forgive.
Good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you can appreciate, because the key thing we're discussing here is appreciating the good things that our mummies and daddies, and the first point was mummies and daddies, and the second point was all beings. So the key point here is to appreciate the good things that our mummy and daddy have done for us. So you feel you can do that with your father.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a relationship. You don't have to have a relationship with these other people. Not at all. You do not need to. There's no reason whatsoever. That's up to you, You don't need to have a relationship. So don't learn, and they might want it out of sentimental reasons. But if there's no connection, you leave it like that, Vanessa. Don't you worry about that part. In my opinion, no reason whatsoever.
All right. Okay.
Do you understand? I think this happens a lot these days. Many people have this huge thing about, tracking back your family and people meeting siblings and aunties and uncles. Some people do make a connection. But I know one of my sisters started doing that. And then, dredging up all these cousins and uncles. But it's very nice to meet them. But it's just you meet them once and that's the end of it. Because there's no connection. Nothing continues. So it's a bit sentimental sometimes to do that, Do you understand, Vanessa? You don't need to. You don't need to, darling.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say. That's my feeling.
Okay, because my family are kind of pressuring me to.
Which family? Which part of you? Which who's pressuring you? Which part of your family is pressuring you?
My aunt, my mom's sister, and then my aunt, who is my dad's sister.
So they obviously want you to meet. With. I know. Well, the thing is, you don't have to show anger to. If they keep pushing you, what can you do? Maybe you meet them once or something, but there's no reason you have to, and you let them push. That's their problem. Let them push. It doesn't matter, Vanessa.
Okay.
It's all right.
All right.
Thank you so much. What else, people? Anybody else? Anybody points to make or questions to ask? No? People, darling ones? About what we've discussed today, specifically today.
Hello.
Yes, love you. Hello. Happy to see you again.
I'm happy to see you, to Venerable. For me and for other people that have probably narcissistic mothers, for example.
So hang on, let's just, before we I understand, let's use Buddhist terminology. Narcissistic means a very self-centered person, a person with a lot of attachment, and a lot of needs, emotional needs. That's attachment. Okay, we understand.
Exactly.
We understand.
Exactly.
Join the universe. Lots of people are like that. So then go on, what's the point?
The point is, it's very difficult when you are close to these people because they enter your private space and they pretend to be carry and care about you, but what they actually do is try to tie you and control you. in different ways.
Okay, good.
And if you live in the same space, it's very difficult to find
No,
your
I
own.
understand, Flavio. So here, I understand exactly what you're saying. So now let's analyze it from your point of view, how you can understand it using Buddhist analysis. So what you're describing is a person who has got a lot of attachment. And if they're your mother, because they gave birth to you, their attachment is very strong. So yes, there is attachment there, but your job here in this particular meditation is to go past those negative qualities and to try to see her good qualities. That's all we're discussing here. That's what you have to do in your own private meditation. Can you try to find the good qualities in this person? Because right now, because of your attachment and your aversion and your inability to handle this person, all you're doing is seeing her negative qualities. Can you see the point I'm trying to make?
Yes.
Now, from your point of view, Flavio, if you are not capable of handling this person, then you need to make the decision to stay away. Not because she's horrible, but because you can't handle it. That's first job. But this next job is a good contemplation for you to do one day, to literally sit down and think of some good qualities of this person. Because right now, all you're doing is seeing the bad ones. This is the point of this meditation here, Flavio, and that's not, you don't have to tell this person. It's your own private practice, and it's pretty profound. Because I'm telling you this, when you can start to see her good qualities, you will be able to handle her better. You'll have more power, you'll have more confidence, you'll have more self-confidence, and you'll be able to handle her easily. That's the work you have to do, Flavio. So the first step, very beginning level of practice, if you are not done enough work on your own mind, then if you can't handle her, you keep her away. 2, if you can learn to handle her, that's because you've done some work in your own mind. And what does that mean, Flavio? You're recognizing in her attachment, manipulation, and controlling. Everybody has that, including you. And the reason you can't handle her attachment is because you haven't yet worked enough on your own. This is the way it goes, Flavio. So you have to know where you're at. You have to know what you're capable of. But if you can, every now and again, think, even write a list of the good things that your mother has done. She gave birth to you. She fed you. She looked after you. She clothed you. These are facts, but we forget about these things. Because we think, well, that's just her job. No. So the job we're trying to do here, your job, if you can, is to paint a different picture of this woman you call your mother. And the only way to do that is see some good qualities. Then your picture will soften, and then you'll have more courage. So it's up to you what you can handle, Flavio. Are we communicating?
Yes, I just wanted to add that actually I went from a very, very beautiful picture of my mother that I actually had a very good relationship with her, especially because I moved away from home when I was 6th grade, I think. I went to another school in another city and so forth. So but quite a good relationship. But now that I returned because of COVID and everything, then I've seen that she's actually trying to manipulate. She's been alone for a long while, and
right, exactly.
She tries to find ways to tie me here.
Because she's lonely, and she has attachment, and she adores her boy, and she doesn't know how to be happy on her own, so she's dumping her needs on you. Of course, Flavio, but you won't understand this properly until you understand your own attachment, because your attachment works in the same way. This is why I said that before. The first step is to us to work on our own minds. So right now, that's all you're seeing. I understand. But you're not living with your mother. You're in the same house, right?
Yes, actually, I'm back at home. And
okay, now, hey, stop right there, Flavio. Now there's a whole new discussion. This is an entire new discussion, Flavio. Now you're a grown man. You have chosen to go back to your mummy's house because there's no rent. You are now getting what you deserve. So you better grow up, Flavio. You either stay there and learn to love your mother, or you leave her house, honey. Now this is a very different discussion, and I'm going to be rough with you now.
Yeah, I was at the point of trying to choose which one to do.
You need to choose, darling. And if you stay, you are grateful every day to your mother's kindness. She pays the rent, she pays the food, and she probably does all the work as well. So you dare not talk about your mother like that if this is the case. Wow, this is very different, Flavio. My God. Are you hearing my point, precious boy?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Thank you.
should-
Don't you
that-
dare criticize your mother. You cannot have her kindness and then spit on her as well. You cannot do this. But everybody does this, especially boys with their mothers. Flavio. Are we communicating, precious one?
We are communicating, but
No, but you have
I
got
do
a
not
choice.
agree.
What?
I do not agree.
What?
I do not agree.
With which
because
piece? No, Flavio, with which piece do you not agree? Are you living on your mother's house? No, please ask me some questions. Are you living in your mother's house?
It's my house, actually. But
She
yeah,
gave it to you. She gave it to you.
Yeah, that's
Jesus Christ. Who pays the rent? Not you, I bet. Who? You give your mother money? Do you pay for the food? Did you give your mother money for living in her house? Do you pay for the
Sometimes.
food, Flavio?
But yeah, I get the point.
Thank you very much. So I beg you, darling, I beg you. This is a really common one. If you were living away from your mother, I understand. But you cannot have it both ways. You cannot accept your mother's kindness and then criticize her. I'm sorry, Flavio, you're not 5 years old anymore. You're a big man by now.
It's just the way that she creates the situation. Because this is
Flavio,
what she-
excuse me, stop talking about your mother. I'm trying to get you to look at Flavio. Please, I beg you, you must not stop criticizing. You must stop criticizing your mother. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot live in her house and let her do all the work and buy the food and make the food and clean the house, and you dare to criticize her. You can't have both, Flavio. I'm sorry. The work is yours, not your mother. We are describing your mind here, and each one of us in this room is describing our mind, not the mind of the other person. So you've got a lot of work to do internally, darling. Please forgive me. You opened yourself to this discussion. I'm very sorry.
I totally agree with you. I do have a lot of work to do with myself. The problem is I came back here because she insisted to.
No, that is
And
total
she-
bullshit. That is utter rubbish. Your mother can insist as much as she likes. You are in charge of your life and you make your own decisions. So if you feel you are so weak that you can't say no to your mother, that is not your mother's problem. That is your problem, precious one. I'm sorry, Flavio. This is an example for every one of us. Everybody has got something like this in our lives. You have to take responsibility, Flavio. You do not need to be there. You do not need to do your mother's wishes in being in the house. You do not need to, Flavio. It suits you right now. And if you feel you're really kind of being forced by your mother, you have a lot of inner work to do to be able to say no to your darling mother. So for me, you forget compassion. You've got to do the wisdom work, and this is tough. Sweetheart, there's so many things that your situation is telling every one of us. So thank you for just sharing it, and I'm sorry to be so blunt, darling.
It's okay. You are not vulnerable. You are not the only person I talked to, and I had many suggestions to leave the house. Many things happened to me, and I wouldn't say kindness. It looks like kindness, but it's not.
No, sorry, what? Sorry, stop. Whose kindness are you talking about? Your mother is.
Accidents happen to me, and it's not normal that a person to see you that you're actually in blood on the floor and do nothing.
I don't understand what you're telling me now. You're opening yourself up for more and more discussion. I can't even begin to discuss, Flavio. There's so much you have to do. You've got to start to make decisions for yourself. You've got to decide what you want to do. And if you live in your mother's house, you have got to learn to see your mother differently. Otherwise, you will either kill her or go mad. You cannot live like this, Flavio. You cannot, and I know you. You are so intelligent and you are so sincere in your wish to practice. You've got some serious decisions to make. May I suggest that? You cannot live like this.
Well, it's very difficult.
Why? What is difficult, Flavio? So for you to make a decision to leave your house, you have to ask the question, why is that difficult? Nobody is imprisoning you. There is no key in the door. So you have to look at your fear, your terror of not doing your mother's wishes. It's your problem, not your mother's. You are so afraid to not do your mother's wishes. So if you want to do your mother's wishes, your job is to practice humility and patience and kindness and love for your mother. But I don't think you're capable of that yet because you haven't done the inner work first. You need to make a decision, Flavio. It is serious. You can't live like this. But this is how many people live their relationships, and they go mad, and they wonder why they go mad, and they wonder why people kill each other because of this, Flavio. I'm not trying to exaggerate. Do you have a job? Do you earn money?
Yeah. Yes, I have a job. I earn money, and I've been away. I moved around the world, actually. So this is...
How long have you been in the house now with your mother? How long have you been there?
A few months.
Well, then you're going to have to leave, can't you? You're going to have to leave again, aren't you? For your own sanity and for your mother's sake. Don't you think so? What do you feel? I'm not pushing you. I'm just discussing.
I thought that I can actually transform this because I could work with my own emotion when I was alone.
But you're not. But you're not. All you do is obsessed with your mother and blaming every single thing on your mother. You're not 5 anymore. The only topic of this discussion is how bad your mother is. Not a single word about yourself. You're only obsessed with your mother. She is the bad one. She's neurotic. She is not kind. She is manipulative. She is controlling. Excuse me, you're a grown-up man, Flavio. You have money. You do not. There's no lock on the door. You're not in prison. You cannot live.
I don't feel like
you
that
cannot
anymore.
live like this.
It's an issue that I do not feel like that anymore. I feel like a child here. So
That's exactly my point. You're just reiterating my point. So you'd better leave, hadn't you, and be a grown-up.
Will I actually be a grown-up if I exit this place without actually solving the problem? That's
What
my
problem? The
question.
problem is your mind, not your mother. Your mind is
Yeah,
your
but
problem.
obvious.
Flavio, it is like
here.
Flavio, if you're an alcoholic, you cannot give up attachment to alcohol while living with alcohol. You cannot work on your mind. How you're talking is evident. You are too intensely close to this whole thing. You can't see your problem at all. You can't see your own attachment, your own anger, your own fear. You can't see this. All you see is your mother. It's clear from your words, darling. You're telling us the problem. So you've got to make a decision. You can't live like this. The problem is your mind, not your mother. The problem is your mind, not your relationship with your mother. And that's our problem. It's not, it's like you're in a relationship with a girlfriend. All you do is fight. She is not the problem. Your mind is the problem. Your mother's got her own problems, and they are hers to solve. They are not your problems. Your problem is your mind and your view of your mother and your attachment and your fears and your anger and your horror, your terror of not doing your own wishes, your fear of not doing your mother's wishes. You are allowing her to manipulate you. You are allowing her to control you. You are allowing her to harm you. You have to see this. This is fundamental practice, Flavio, and that shows how hard it is.
I don't see how. I agree with you because this is happening. She's alcoholic, actually.
Okay,
but,
Flavio, I'm not interested in your mother. I'm talking about you. You can't see it. You just can't see what I'm saying. It's okay. All I can do is say my words very bluntly and for you to think about them. You have to make some decisions, Flavio. You cannot live like this. You will go mad. I just need you to think about it. I've been extremely blunt with you, darling. All I wish is you think about it. But again, from a point of view of responsibility, you cannot live in this house and allow your mother to control you, allow your mother to do all the work, allow your mother to pay all the bills, allow all your mother to pay for the food, and you dare to complain. You cannot have it both ways. Okay? Thank you, Flavio. I'm so sorry to be so blunt with you. But please try to think of what I'm saying. I'm so sorry. It's time to go. That was enough. 27 lessons in that one conversation with kind Flavio. Trust your own power and your own wisdom, Flavio, and see what is best for you. Because you can't please your mother right now. That's a fact. So try and see what's best for you. This is not right for you. You're making yourself crazy. It's not possible. Let your mother think exactly what she likes, Flavio. That's her problem, precious one. I think this is something for all of us in all our relationships, yes? We all understand this. This is the trouble with attachment to reputation, Flavio, where it's just so complex, this stuff. So complex. Everybody's got it. And you're just a good example for all of us. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to go now. It's enough. Darling people, unless there's any more burning questions. Enough, I think. So this is my point. You listen to people. This is Flavio, such an example. And I'm not being rude about him. If we haven't done the wisdom wing of letting go of attachment, letting go of anger, letting go of fears, letting go of drama, if we haven't become super self-confident and super together and have the courage to say no when we need to, that's the wisdom wing, then how is it possible to have compassion? Flavio can't possibly see his mother with compassion yet. It is too difficult. This is my point. He's example of it, so perfect. So keep practicing, darling people. Keep working on our minds. Keep seeing our own garbage. Keep seeing our own suffering. And then we can begin to see others are suffering too. Until Flavio deeply knows his own attachment and anger, he cannot possibly have compassion for his mother. Not possible. Not possible. This is how we all are. Okay, that's enough, I think. Next week. I'm sorry, people, if I'm so rough. Please, please, please. Just illustrating my point so perfectly. This is really hard work for all of us. So keep moving, darling people. Keep working. Keep looking at your mind. Keep practicing. Keep having courage. Keep having self-confidence. And then we can practice compassion for others. But compassion for ourselves first. Has to be. So thank you, dearest people. I hope I didn't upset you with that intense shouting. But hear the points. Hear the points. It's really quite heavy. It's heavy-duty work, all this. Keep moving, Flavio. Be brave. Be courageous. All of us. Okay, darlings. And may compassion grow and grow and grow. First for ourselves and then in our own hearts for others, okay? Jangchub, Semchog Rinpoche, Makye Panam Ke Guchig, Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yang, Gong Ne, Gong Du Pa Ba Shog, Gewa Din Yudu Dag Lama Sange Drubgyo Ne, Drowa Chikyang Malupa, Dei Sala Gurpa Shog. Thank you, precious people. Thank you so much. Much love, everybody. See you next week. Thank you, Flavio.
Thank you, Anna.
So kind.